Hi, I'm Lisa K. Donner, along with Jeff Charles, Keelan Ferris, Scott Cosenza, and Mark Angelides. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Last week, Facebook informed former President Donald Trump that he will have to suffer the indignity of its ham-fisted decision and will be suspended from posting on their platform until 2023. The reason? Trump's posts are a risk to public safety. But a study conducted by none other than the New York Times shows that silencing Mr. Trump ain't all that easy. The newspaper found that Facebook is still chock full of everything Trump. Surprise, surprise. The newest member of the Liberty Nation tribe, Keelan Ferris, is here with us. A special welcome to C5, Keelan.
Woo! Welcome, Keelan.
Woo! So this is right in your wheelhouse. What is the Gray Lady's point here?
Yeah, so what the New York Times published, I feel like I could have told you myself, but maybe since the New York Times is telling you, maybe some of the liberals will actually listen. But what they're saying is just because Donald Trump no longer has an account and isn't posting himself doesn't mean that all things Trump went away. He still has millions of people on both Facebook and Twitter that support him, voted for him. There's pro-Trump groups, there's conservative social media accounts that are essentially just taking what Donald Trump is putting on his own website and his statements and just posting them online anyway. So what Trump is saying is still getting on social media. Only 11 out of the 89 of his statements since he was banned in January have actually surpassed his median likes and shares from when he had his account. So some of these posts that other people are sharing are getting more attention or just as much attention as if Donald Trump were posting them himself. Some of them don't get as much, but essentially what they found is that just because you got rid of Donald Trump doesn't mean everything Donald Trump went away. He's still got so many people that share what he's talking about. Some get more attention than others, like I said. When he likes to bash on some of the Republicans and types of Republicans with a name that I won't share, but that gets a lot of attention. And even liberal news outlets share it as well. So everyone is contributing to it. When he talks about more culture war things as well, that gets a lot of attention. But basically what they found is that, even though he personally is gone off these social media accounts, doesn't mean his message and, things related to him and his family and, what he's about go away as well.
Keelan, that really plays in with the idea that, so many people in the media seem to think that Trump's success was about Trump. And I'm sure President Donald Trump actually thinks that too, that the success is about him, but it never was. It was never about that. There's always it's not as though 70 plus million people turned around one day in 2016 and said, you know what, that's the guy for me. There was the undercurrent. And he just embodied what was happening there, and call it the MAGA movement, if you will, or the America First movement, or the strident conservatism, or the radical
swamp movement is what I favor.
The anti-swamp movement.
That's the marrow of it.
Yeah, that's what he embodied. Now, it wasn't Donald Trump himself. It was the movement, and they can silence Donald Trump, as you've rightly pointed out there, Keelan. But they can't silence the message or the feeling that is throbbing through the veins of the American people.
Well, but I just like to argue that they really can't silence him. I mean, if tens of thousands of people are picking up on what he's saying, I mean, I'm wondering, is this article in the Times making, Jeff, a not so subtle case to ban all these people that agree with Trump? I mean, in other words, if you say the word Trump, boom, you're going to be algorithmed off the site?
Oh, I think that's definitely what they want to push towards. I don't think that, but here's the thing, even if they do that, they still can't silence it because we can go to another platform. Even if they try to shut that down, there are ways around it. I mean, this is like the 2021 version of like Rush Limbaugh. He found a way to get around the media through radio. We're doing the same thing here. And I think what Mark just said illustrates just how little the left understands the right. I mean, and sometimes I wonder if they know that what they're saying is false and they're just lying to their audience. But I think that they just don't understand because they don't talk to people outside of their bubble very often. So, and then the other aspect of it too is that Trump ain't going anywhere. Like, just because you ban him from Facebook, he had that blog and they recently shut it down. That was a choice that they made. And his spokesperson said that was only part of a wider effort. Like, people don't know, Trump is doing stuff behind the scenes. And I keep saying this on this panel and elsewhere. Trump is making moves. We don't know exactly what they are yet.
History is replete with examples of people who were insurgent power, leaders of insurgent powers, and then were banished in some form and then came back stronger than they originally arrived. So it's not out of the bounds of history to see that happen.
And it could take the form of him making his own social media site. His spokesperson did say it would have something to do with social media. So he's going to be back, and he's starting to do rallies again. No, you can't silence him. It's a fool's errand.
When Julius Caesar was essentially sent off to Spain.
I knew you were going to go into Julius.
You knew I was going to bring that up, right?
Yeah.
So he was sent to Spain to get rid of him. But then he came back. Obviously, he'd mined Spain for wealth and for position back in Rome. And when he came back, he came back a conquering hero. Now, I'm not positive that's what's going to happen to Donald Trump, carried on the standard with the laurels around his head and somebody whispering behind him, "Remember, you are not a god." That might not happen, but he will certainly be a very powerful force in conservative politics going forward.
Trump's going to need more than a whisper, I think.
Yeah, he's gonna need like a choir singing that behind him.
This whole thing reminds me of parenting. When you have a little kid and he wants ice cream, and he wants ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a parent doesn't give it to him. I mean, they say once is enough. And so I think what happens is the kid wants it more and more and more. You can always, basically, when you withhold something from somebody, they want it more. And I think, Keelan, you made an interesting point. You can't shut these people up. You can't shut everybody up. And you try to take away the person that they're interested in. And what happens?
Doesn't work. It really doesn't work because I feel like it was a little bit of virtue signaling, even taking him down, because so many people were relieved. And even when they decided to extend the ban, so many people are like, "Oh, thank goodness, he won't be on these platforms anymore. His message, he won't be, sharing hate and no longer being a risk to the public." But as we can see, it didn't even do that much. So I think might just be another form of virtue signaling. I'm sure Facebook and Twitter, they do their own research. They see, how many times Trump's name is mentioned in a positive or negative light. They can tell based on their algorithms, who's sharing his statements, who's still talking about him, who still supports him. And they know, this ban might not really do all that much because he's just going to find another way to share his message and, speak to his supporters. But
exactly. And it makes him all the more enticing, don't you think, Scott?
Well, yes, perhaps. I think what it does even more, though, Lisa, is reveal the banners and reveal their corruption. That's sort of what I take from it even more, is that the New York Times, we quoted from them, but they have no credibility with me. Dr. Fauci has no credibility with me. Facebook, Twitter, they have no credibility because they will let people and organizations or say the most vile things against Donald Trump, for instance, or conservatives or libertarians, for instance. Meanwhile, when it comes to Trump or a conservative, they are held to some ultra strict standard by which no one really can succeed in social media with how sort of like the quick hit of it, right? It's not all about considered statements that are through 3 layers of filtering. Well, that's not a problem for people on the left because they're not held to any standards like that. But for Trump and everybody else, it is. And that just reveals their bottomless corruption, I think.
No,
Yeah,
Scott,
Facebook.
I do wonder if this is actually not part of a broader business marketing strategy, because when they ban somebody, people talk about it. That increases the number of times people read these particular articles. They click, they retweet. I mean, I think that even the banning of Donald Trump has been in many ways very good for Facebook, Twitter, the legacy media print output, and in terms of their readership and their clickability, their likability, and the very fact that they've banned him and that there's a certain amount of suppression going on, what it means is that everybody thinks they have to share it around because nobody's going to see it otherwise. And I think they've actually made it's regrettable, but it's a smart business decision from them, because I believe that they're actually making more profits by, continuing the ban.
At least that would make
this
sense in a way I could appreciate for Zuck anyway. If it's just a capitalistic endeavor, it might have some value.
And that's the thing. It could be capitalistic. It could just be virtue signaling. It could be both. But what we do know that it's not. It has nothing to do with safeguarding people and preventing political violence or anything like that. Facebook is actively allowing the Chinese Communist Party to use their platform to propagandize. They're letting the CCP use their platform to whitewash what they're doing to the Uyghur Muslims. Like they are in bed with communists, helping them to spread propaganda. So this has nothing to do with human. They don't care about human rights. They don't care about violence. They don't care about any of that stuff. This is ideological and probably capitalistic as well.
Yeah, nothing to do with ethics or morals. I mean, Twitter still has the Ayatollah on their platform, and the Nation of Islam leader, who's a well-known anti-Semite, as well as a lot of other anti-Semites.
Well, this whole big tech banning has just got to be dealt with. But, does Congress have the stuff to do it? And frankly, do they even know what they want to do? I mean, they have them up on Capitol Hill and then they go away and nothing happens. One thing for sure, they can't just wave their magic wand and expect people to forget Donald Trump, if for no other reason than he won't let them. And the beat goes on. Panel, thanks. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all our TV productions. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, surf on over to libertynation.com. Sign up for our new member zone, just $29.99 for the year. This has been a production of libertynationnews.com, conservative news where truth matters.